Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here with a little bit of a process video, to be honest with you, because as some of you who are subscribers who have maybe seen some of my gel print videos, you'll know that I've started an inexpensive art pad that I'm doing my roll-offs in, my clean off my brayers in, purely because I'm going to be making, for a friend, I'm going to be making a journal, and I want it to be an arty journal. So then these are perforated, these can be taken out and turned into signature pages. But what I'm starting work on now is, it's going to take me a while to do the signatures, obviously, but I also need to start creating some ephemera for this as well. Now, as it's going to be quite a contemporary looking journal, I wanted to create some contemporary sort of painty, arty papers for the background and thought I'd show you how I do them. So for an example, this is one that I did earlier on today before I realised maybe I should turn the camera on for you. So this is one of them, which we'll be cutting up later on as well. And all I do is I take unwanted 12 by 12s. Now, this is from, I can't even tell you what brand this is. This is just a 12 by 12, and I can assure you this is never going to be used by me. So I'm just going to use it for this. So it doesn't appeal to me. The colour schemes are not colours I'd use, but it's good quality cardstock. So I'm going to show you the method I use. It's not a new thing. I am absolutely certain someone has done this before. In fact, I seem to remember many, many years ago, and I'm never going to remember the woman's name. I think it was a gel press video I saw probably at least 5 years ago, and this girl had like 4 names. I can't remember, and I'm not even going to try and look backwards because at least 5 years of history is not something I'm going to be looking through. Anyway, so I know it's not a new thing. I've been doing it for a while. I kind of adapt stuff as I go along. So anyway, enough of me drawing about it. I'm using a 12 by 12. You could use any cardstock you wish. I'm just making ephemera from it. I've got my ceramic plate because I like to use a big ceramic tile. I like to use that instead of using plastic pallets and stuff like that. So, right, so I use this a lot as we get it. So I'm going to use just acrylic paints on this, and I'm going to work my way through. The other thing I've got here is I've got some postcards that are not incredibly interesting. They are being worked on. They're in my to be looked at pile. So if I've got any spare paint, I will cross across and use it on there. So first thing I want to do is I want to put some background on this. The first colours I'm going to add is, now I'm going to forget to tell you all the colours, so please forgive me on this, this is just Deco Art Americana, and it's buttermilk. It's one of my favourite colours, to be honest. Currently, I go through favourites. So just a dob of that down. Now I'm going to use a credit card, a plastic card, a door card, a key card, whatever you want it to be. You could just use a piece of stiff card to do the same thing. I'm using this colour because I know it's almost the same as the background, and it just means that I dull it down a bit. I will be using white as well, but this will enhance some of the creaminess of the paper as well, and just give me something different, to be honest with you. Now I'm working on my black mat here purely because it's one I don't care if I get it painty. I do have a few of these cutting mats, and I use them for different things as I go along. Next, I want to pull in some white. So I'm just pulling in some regular Peebo Studio acrylics, high viscosity, number 11, opaque white. I'm not really married to any particular brands, although I do have a few brands that I enjoy using. So use what you've got is what I'm trying to get to. I'm just spreading this on, not caring about whether I get paint on the front, on the back, on the sides, on my mat. It doesn't bother me. I mean, I'd rather not have a whole ton of paint on my mat, but what I'll do is I'll periodically sort it out and wipe it clean. So now I also don't mind if I've got a bit of the original pattern showing through, because sometimes that just adds another layer of interest. Now, in this instance, it's bells and holly and robins. This is not going to be a Christmas journal. This is not going to be what's that called, a December daily or something, so I do need to cover it up, but normally not a problem. I'll just take a bit of a damp cloth here just before it gets even worse. This is interesting, isn't it? Let's watch Ceri clean up his arty mat. So there you go, just done and dusted. So I think, what do I need to put on there now? Pearl frosted mint. Okay, I know this is a transparent or a semi-transparent colour. It's going to add a little bit of sheen, which is completely fine with me. It's one of my beginning layers, so it's just going to give it that sort of frosted look. Oh, and a big thank you, by the way, to everyone who answered my question in, I think it was a video before last, I can't remember which one it was, where I asked about the volume. Loads and loads and loads of you answered, and thank you so much, because it does help me quality control a little bit what I'm putting out, because as it became apparent, what I hear isn't what everyone hears. However, out of a very large amount of comments, I think I only had 3 people say that they were having trouble hearing me. So the one thing I did take from it, everyone said my YouTubes were on par with everyone else's YouTubes as far as volume goes, but one person did bring up something that I'd actually never even thought about. They said to check whether on your devices, whether there's a master control for your volume on your device, because if that's set to low, no matter what you do with the volume control, that's going to stop how high it can go. Not something I'd heard about, but I thought something worth passing on. Right, let's come in and give this, I'm going to give it a bit of a shock of teal or turquoise or whatever colour this is. This bottle is a no brand bottle, and by that I mean it's just one that as my paints begin to get low, I will very often just come in and just pour them all into one bottle. So just coming in. Now I am seriously not giving a darn as to what I'm doing with this paint, as you may have noticed. Right, I want a bit more white in there. So I don't mind if I mix white and the colour I'm working with on, oh sorry about that, at the same time. They'll blend in beautifully together. I want to try and make sure I do get to the edges though, even though it can be a bit messy on my mats to do so. I want to make sure the edges are covered, or I'm going to have to start trimming edges off or covering them up or stuff like that. Now for me, I don't particularly think I'm going to be decorating the ephemera that I make. And I mean, when I put it in the journal, I'm not going to decorate the ephemera that I'm going to make, because what I'd like to do is to make the whole thing an arty journal, whereas the person who receives it could then go in and finish off things with their own taste in art. So that's my thinking and theory behind this anyway. Right. Okay, we're getting quite nice. I've got a bit up there. So I've got a bit on this mat. Now, I'm working quite quickly here because I'm conscious I don't want the video to go on for hours. But do make sure that if you're doing this sort of process, that you give yourself a bit of drying time occasionally, because you will probably need it. So a little bit more cleanup going on here just before paint starts sticking to everything. Let's move this to one side for a second. Right. Looking at this, I'm absolutely loving this, but I do want to kick it up just ever so slightly with a touch of something. Am I in shot? I hope I'm in shot. I'm not really looking through my camera, I'm just looking at the piece of work in front of me. I think I'd like to add some pink to this. Yeah, I know, it's me and the pink thing. I'm not a lover of pink, as you know, however. Now I've got 3 lots of pink here. This is a pale pink chalk. And if I remember, this is really, really, really pale. And it might just get a little bit lost. Yeah, that's a bit too baby pink for me, for what I'm thinking. This is the next one. I tend to open the lid to have a look and give the bottle a squeeze so it comes up. That's more the colour I'm looking for. This one's a pearl. I don't really want a pearl. So what I'll do is I'll have the chalk one to one side just in case I overdo this or this ends up being too dark. And then I'll knock it back slightly with the chalk version. Right. Just take some of this. Now, because the paint's underneath, are still marginally wet, you're going to have things picking up and blending. That's fabulous. Loving that. It's exactly what I want to do. You'll also notice, and for those who've seen me collage, you will see that I tend to turn the surface I'm working on periodically, and I do that just because I want to alter stuff. I want things in directions. Now here I think I put too much. Just going to come in with my cloth and just wipe it off. I'm not worried about that, and just come in again and just put a little bit more over the top, just to mask the fact that I took something away from it. Make sure I've got some on the edges. Right, just while that's thinking about it, I'm going to use up what's left on here and see if there's a postcard that needs a bit of pink thrown into it. That one might do. That one might have some pink into it. And this is how I actually just build up the interest on some of my postcards. So as time goes by, things will get added to, and then eventually the postcards will get used, and then there'll be maybe paste put on them. There'll be a feature put on them. But I try not to waste paint. Paint is expensive. This one's got a little bit of a dark line on. I don't like. That's fine. Okay, this one, I love this. It's just too subtle. Now these are by no way finished. I mean, I will spend weeks on a postcard if I really enjoy it. So postcards take me a time to do, guys. But I do use stencils, and I use pastes, I use texture mats, I use stuff on them. Right, I think we're done with the postcards. Let's put those up the top. I'm thinking of something just really subtle. What's this? Camel. Don't know that I've ever used this colour. I'm not sure that it's a colour I would think would appeal to me anyway. I'm hoping it's not going to be insipid. Actually, no, that was a good choice. I have had quite a lot of comments, by the way, and thank you for them. It's wonderful. And as you know, I will always answer comments. Sometimes because of the amount of comments I get, it will take me a while to get around to answering them all, but I do answer all my comments. I've had a lot of comments of, you like my colour choices, I have a natural eye for it, along those lines. I think a lot of that comes from possibly my career as a cake decorating artist, because colour is very, very important when you begin to work with food. Also my career in the theatre, dealing with costumes and lighting and production and marketing, stuff like that, is all about colour. So I'm just having a think here. I'm liking where this is going. I also am a full believer in, the more you do, the more you learn. The more confident you get, the more likely you are to pick it up. Part of the reasons I do some weird colour combinations is purely I know that this is a bit of paper, that's a bit of paint, and this is a bit of time. That's all I've wasted. If it goes wrong, it goes wrong. If it goes right, it's fabulous. I can tell you, I do use a colour wheel. I use a colour wheel a lot. In fact, I've got 2 colour wheels. Where's the other one gone? I do use colour wheels, and I tend to, if I'm stuck or I've hit a bump in the road and I don't know what colour to use, I will literally reach for a colour wheel just to help my thought process go again. So now I've got that on there. Now I've got to remember, this is not a finished background. There's going to be on here more. And what I'm thinking, yes, I think I am going to do that. Right, I'm going to get a bit of white, not a very big bit of white, just a little bit of white. And I'm going to take a bit of kitchen paper or kitchen towel, it depends on what you know it is in your country. And I'm going to ball this up, unball it, and then scrunch it. So I've got a bit of scrunchiness on here, and I'm just going to dab this around in my white paint and just put bits on here. Now everything I'm doing, all you really need equipment wise is the paint and the paper. The rest is completely, at the moment I've used nothing that you couldn't already have in your home if you're a crafter or an artist. So there you go, we've got a background. Now at this point, if you didn't want to do the next stage, you could call this finished. you could call this done and dusted and know that you've got a very attractive background on the go. However, I'm now going to go ahead and select a few stencils because I want to put some stenciling on here to add depth, to add colour, to add something to it. So while this is drying, we're going to select some stencils. So this is my portfolio of stencils. A few of them are mine, but not a lot of them. They're ones I've used over the time, ones I really love. I go through phases of stencil buying. I'll be searching for one stencil on the internet and then buying 10 of them, and none of them were the one I was looking for in the first place. Or because I do lots of craft shows and exhibitions and events, I will very often find stencils I've never seen before in different countries and just buy them. There are a few in here that are my designs. If I can find them, they're in here somewhere. Here, some of these are my designs that I cut years ago myself, but as far as stencils goes, watch this space. There may be some more stencils of mine coming out in the future, because I've never sold stencils, I've never sold masks, I've always designed for myself, but you never know, we might be in discussion about changing that. So, right, I love this stencil just because of the size of it. Because when you reckon I'm going to be using this on things that are going to be tags or pockets, so I'm looking for a smaller design. This, as anyone knows, is one of my favourites. Now, someone did tell me what this is, and I want to say it was something. It was a Lavinia stamp, and I think it was called Feather Leaves or Feather Foliage or something like that. But it was Lavinia stamps, and I've used Lavinia stencils, and I've used Lavinia stuff before, so. Do I want to go down? No. I don't particularly want this to be sea themed. Yeah, we'll use that one. I use that one a lot. Yeah, I don't particularly want it to be sea themed, but I do want some theme within it. Right? We know I use this one all the time, so that's going to be going. This isn't a tour through my stencil collection. This is me just thinking, or maybe we'll use that, maybe use this. Actually, let's go to the back. I've got some of my more recent purchases. Anyone who knows me knows I love PM Artist Studio, so that pattern's a little bit big for what I was thinking. Don't want spirals. Might come back to that one. Oh, I quite like this one. Triangles. Now, I'm pulling these out. It doesn't mean I'm going to use them all. It just means I'm pulling them out. Bear with me a second, I would want to find one more. There it is. I like this one. I find this really useful, especially if you look at that section there, or that section there, these look really good. Sorry, they work really well on ATCs, artist trading cards. There was one in here that I thought I might grab. Wonky Net, where are you? There you go, wonky Net. I use this one so much. I mean, it's getting heavy now with paint. Right, let's clear this out of the way and move that over to one side. So I've got a selection of them. Not sure I'm going to use all of them, but at least I've got choices now that I can dive into. Some are background ones, some are foreground ones. So here we are in again. Now this isn't completely dry. I'm not really bothered. I'm just going to work with it. I mean, what's the worst case scenario? I'm going to get paint on the back of my stencil. I've already got paint on the front, why not on the back? So I think I'm going to come in first of all with this one, because as I said, I like the numbers and things on this one. Now, how am I going to do this? Those who have seen me using stencils before with paint know that I normally buy a sponge, cut it into sections. This is the only sponge I had left. I normally buy the baby sponges from, like mine is a £1 store, yours might be a $1 store. They usually have 3 of the baby sponges in a pack for £1. I cut them into little squares and use them. This, I'm not even sure what this came from, but never mind. So I did hunt around and I had a few makeup sponges, which I've used before, but it's a bit of an expensive alternative. Whereas with a sponge like this, I might use it once or twice and throw it away. With these are definitely going to get washed because these work out a little more expensive. I mean, you can buy foam wedges in the £1 store as well, or the $1 store, but it's a Sunday morning here. I can't get to a store. So, right, want this. What do I want on there? I want something, I'm thinking reasonably dark, but not a blue. I wonder if I've got an olive somewhere. Oh, there you go. Good guess. Olive green. I've got to be careful though, actually thinking about it. If I do these in olive green, they're probably going to look military. I'm going to leave olive green out though, because I like the idea of that. Maybe terracotta. There's terracotta, right. You only need the smallest amount. Because the more paint you put out, the more paint you've got to use up. And the habit is you keep adding it to the same thing, and that's not what you wanted. Right, so I'm just going to come in. I'm going to get one of the sponges and just put it on the end and dab off almost as much as I put on there. And then I'm going to come in and bounce the sponge up and down. Now, if there's not a lot of paint on the sponge, it's not going to bleed under. Okay, so make sure you remember less is more. You can always put another layer on. Right, I am turning my 12 by 12 as we did with other stuff, just because that way I don't know which direction the things I'm going to create are going to be sitting. If they're pockets, they could be in one orientation. If they're a tag, they could be in another direction. If they're a corner tuck, another direction. So give yourself options and just keep turning it around. Right, I don't want too much. I think I want that big number down there though. So if you're worried about going over the edges of your stencil and leaving extra marks, you can always mask off with some washi tape or something. That's quite a nice idea sometimes. Let's just lift that off there. There you go. So right, so I've got that. Now I've got some of the colour left here. So let's see what I've got here that I might want to put a number on. That one looks like it could do with a number. Let's put that big number right down the side. So, yeah, I always love doing postcards, ATCs. Basically, it's mini art. That's the way I look at it. See, that's quite good. Added something to that. Let's see. This green one could do with something. Let's put some. I tend to put things in corners when it comes to the numbers. Don't know why. Don't know where that habit came from. I just do. A little bit there. I think we'll do one more and then we'll get on with what we're supposed to be doing. Let's put a bit on you. Let's put you across there. So yeah, here in Britain, well here in Wales, because Wales is a section of Britain. It's very wet and windy and rainy, but nowhere near as Florida is with Hurricane Ian. But I think we're going to find the aftermath of Hurricane Ian is coming our way, because we've been predicted high winds, high rains, everything. Right, this will get washed off later, so it needs to go in a bowl or something. Now, right, I'm not going to clean my sponge, wash my sponge or change my sponge between paints, because I don't mind some of the colour bleeding over. But I am going to get rid of the excess off it so it doesn't contaminate the next colour too much. I don't mind there being a bit of cross-contamination, but by taking that off, I'm not going to contaminate the whole load. So let's bring this back in again. Right, I did pull out the olive green tonight. Right, this I think is a prime candidate for the olive green, and following the terracotta with a green is actually quite a nice idea, because earthy tones, that's what I'm thinking, earthy tones. So I'm just going to come in. Now I have a very bad habit of working around the edges and forgetting the middles, so I'm trying to get better at focusing some stuff in the middle. Now I'm sort of doing an S shape just to give some movement to my piece. Let's put a bit down here. As you may know me, I usually do things in 3s or 5s. If I've got to 7, then I'm doing a very big piece. Let's turn that around a little bit. I quite like this over here. The hard thing is too, when you're doing this sort of stuff, is you're not trying to make one 12 by 12 background. It's going to be cut up. So I need to make sure there's something touching in spots and places. Like I am going to go to 5 on this one. Because I never know what's going to get caught with the cutting and what isn't. A little bit up here. Just use a remainder of that paint up on this one. I'm trying to remember the name of the girl who I originally saw do this years ago, and I'm terrible with names. Let's push that to one side. Let's bring that in on this one. It's weird. I think her name had an unusual middle name. It was something like Fee Fi or Fi Frey, or because at the time I thought, oh, it's Fee Fi Fo Fum. Obviously, it wasn't Fee Fi Fo Fum, but when I first saw the name, I thought, that's an interestingly unusual name. And some of you are probably going to be screaming at the screen going, oh, it's blah, 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 blah. Well, I can't hear you. Sorry. Okay, those are, see already, they're just having bits added to them. Again, this needs to go into the wash. Let's bring in the same bit of tissue and just clean off some of this just to make sure it's not contaminating everything. But yes, I can't remember her name. I'm almost certain it was a gel press tutorial. Almost certain it was a gel press tutorial. So I'll try and find out and put it in the description box if I find it. But there's no way I'm hunting back through 5 or 6 years worth of history. However, if I happen to stumble across it, I will do that. I will get that for you. Okay, right. Being conscious now, I don't want this to get too busy. But it does need something. Right, so I've got that colour. I think I might want to put something like maybe a magenta or something into this. Let's see if I've got a magenta or a red, or let's see if I've got something on the go. Wine red, that's quite a nice colour. Now I've got to be careful, dominant colour. So it's going to contrast with the background, which means it's going to really stand out and jump in my face. So I've got to be a bit cautious. Now, when it comes to this dot stencil, I'm going to focus on this size because some of these will be too dominant, yet the smaller dots will not be, which is something to bear into consideration when you're actually creating, because you're going to be creating small ephemera, well, that's my aim anyway, and a small ephemera, I want small pieces, or I'm going to end up with some really big chunks that are not going to be attractive. This is such an addictive process. And yes, you could make your own background papers this way quite easily. I mean, I've done that for book covers, for covering books before. I've done this on background papers. I've done it for, well, for this method, for ephemera making. I've done it on tissue paper for collage as well. Just a little bit over here. I've got to be careful that this doesn't suddenly become a Christmas looking background. Let's put that to one side. Bring in a couple more of those postcards that are lurking, just so I can use up some more of this. Now, because these are postcards, I don't mind using slightly larger areas. I think just a couple more up there might just be enough. I like doing things that also go off the design. Just add something. See, already that's looking more interesting than it did before. Do I need more? I've got some on here. Let's get some on to something else. Right, this is looking really white. So as there's already a claret or a plum colour in this one, it'll work quite well. And this is another reason I like having lots of backgrounds for postcards and ATCs and stuff like that at different stages of completion. I do have lots of requests. Could I do an end-to-end process on making ATCs and postcards? I'm going to struggle doing that, guys, because I have a whole box of ATC backgrounds already done. I have a whole box full of postcard blanks already done. I mean, let me just see if I can reach them. Okay, this is my ATC box. These are starting backgrounds. These are backgrounds that have now been backed, and these are backgrounds that have got clear gesso on, and I'm starting to work on. And then when they're finished, they go into my ATC folder. as far as postcards go. Right, so I've got blank postcards here. These have maybe had the first couple of rounds of paint put on them. This is where I've gone in and maybe put a little bit more design work onto them, like that one's almost finished. And then it goes all the way forward to finished, and then they'll go into a postcard album. Or they get sent out for swaps or gifts, or I use my postcards. I like using postcards. Right, let's move on to... I did like the triangles, but I'm beginning to worry that this could be becoming a little bit over the top. I think I need to make some decisions here. I think that one looks very similar to theirs. So that's not going to be used. Wonky net is one of my favourites. So I think that one have to be used. I like this because of the flow of it. We'll put this in the parking lot. I'll let me think about that one because I'm not sure, because there's quite sweepy stuff with the leaves. So I think I want to use a bit of this. And what I'm thinking of doing, I'm not sure you can see it. Let's move that up for you. I think I'm going to add a touch of white to that. And then I've got then a pink. And I could do some of these in a pink. That way I'm not deviating too far from the theme we had. And it also won't be too dominating. This is a stencil by PM Artist Studio, by the way. They're based in Texas. As you know, they're one of my favourite manufacturers for masks and stencils. So you've heard me talk about them before. Definitely heard me talk about them before. Highly recommend going over and joining their Facebook group, which is Makers of Mixed Media Art and Artists, I believe it is. If you apply to the group, you've got to answer 2 questions to get into it. Believe me, easy lemon squeezy. There's no problem. I can't tell you what the questions are, but let me just tell you, it's laughable how easy it is. It's a fabulous community of like-minded people who share support and their love for art and artistry, and it's interesting and it's intriguing, and it's just nice to be part of a group that tends to have no ulterior motives except promoting each other and the love of art and creativity. Okay, I think we're almost there with that one. I just want to realise, bring this one back in and see if I can't add something to something again. Oh, that would look interesting with pink on it, wouldn't it? So I'm just going to come in and do a something on this. Yep, I don't waste paint unless I have no option. Usually the only time I waste paint is due to a time constraint. If I've got time to play, I will definitely use up as much paint as I can without wasting it. I mean, after all, it's not cheap, is it, guys? That little bit on there's enough. Let's see if I've got another one. This one might do with some pink on it. Quite like the way this one's going, but I'm not sure where it's going, if that makes sense. It's turned into a bit of a mass make video, isn't it? That's actually really nice. I wonder whether I can just... I want to just see if I can lift up some of the darker colour and give it a different shade down here. I know I'm going over another piece, but you know what? That's fine with me. Line up something along the side of there. So this is what I do. I just play, and luckily enough, it works. Sometimes it doesn't work, but it works. Right, I was liking that colour, but I think, again, things are getting too busy on here. I'm going to have to retire this sponge to the washing bowl, because the next colour I want to do, I think, is going to be white. And I don't want to contaminate it with that at all. So this has gone over to the wash area, and we'll have a new one of these. Right, I'm going to come in with my wonky net. Now, this is actually called a mask, although I use it as a stencil. A mask would be put down, and then you put paint around it and take this back off, and it would leave... sorry, let me get this right. You will put the mask down, you would put paint over it, and then we pulled it back up. It would leave the grid behind which means anything this was covering up would still be exposed. I'm using it as a stencil, so I'm going to put it down. I'm going to put paint into these areas so that what would normally be a hole is going to be a square. Hopefully that made sense to anyone out there. I mean, I'm not the best when it comes to explanations. Oh, that's a messy bit of paint. I'm not the best when it comes to explaining masks and stencils, because to me, I use stencils as masks and I use masks as stencils. So I think they have to be categorized in some way for, first of all, for them to be sold. Secondly, because of the nature of what they are. However, I do find, as with a lot of equipment and stuff out there, it's all down to what technique you actually use the piece for. See, I'm really giving myself subtleties here. And all I'm doing is this white is knocking into the background some of the busier pieces. See, just a little bit. Like here, to me, that's too much of a straight line. So let's come across here, a little bit of a diagonal. Not that I really do a lot of diagonals, but a little bit of a diagonal in there is not going to hurt. I love the pink, but this area needs a bit of light as well. I think a little bit down there. A lot of this is just done by instinct, guys. I'm looking at this up here. It looks a little bit light. And I mean light in detail, not light in colour. And this little bit down here has just proved to me that it needs something. I think that'll do. Right, that's one side. See if there's anything up here that... Oh, trying to reach up and get them. Any of these that really cry out. This one's almost done. I think if I put something on here, maybe it will be done. It's a layer of something, I don't mind that. This one's just a bit flat for me. So I'll try and introduce a bit of that into it too. Right, I think that's enough of us playing with that. Into the wash that will go. Right, that's sorted. Let's pull these out of the way. So, this is our piece. Now, I now need to make a decision as to, am I finished? How dramatic do I want things to be? At what stage do I stop? Now, I think there's enough on here. But when I say there's enough on here, that means that there's enough opaque paint on here. I could put transparent paint on here and still see the stuff behind it or through it. Now, I've got this and I love this, and I think I might want to use this. And I think what I might use it with is a bit of gold or copper. I'm not 100% certain. Where have you gone, Mr. Gold? Right, I'm going to use this gold. It's a semi-transparent gold. So what it's going to do is it's going to give me subtlety. So just a bit of gold on there. I do like this brand, Winter & Newton. It's got quite a good creamy consistency to its paint. Now, I'm going to concentrate on areas like here that maybe could just use a little bit of something. And the effect is going to be very subtle. I mean, it's just going to catch the light if you move the piece of ephemera. I'm not looking for it to be bold and in your face. I'm looking for subtlety. So it's there. I can see it here. Hopefully you can see it also. A little bit down here. Now you could come in with texture paste and stuff over the top of that, over this. I tend to save texture paste and that until I've got my final pieces of ephemera, just so that I know that I finished cutting, it'll be fine. Put a little bit of there. I think I can see one more piece. Here looks as if it needs a bit of a break up as well, just to get some in there. I think I may have to buy a new one of these stencils soon. This one's getting really thick. I just don't tend to clean this one very often. Right, I'm going to put this to one side because it needs to dry. And I'm just going to use this last bit of gold paint up on stuff, just to not waste the gold. In fact, I might just dab in and out of any colours that I've got stuck around here, just to build up something on each of these. It gives me options for the future. So a lot of you have said that you do like creating your own backgrounds, which is why I like them, because it means you've got something unique in your background kit. I like digitals as well. I tend not to use digitals that often, purely because I don't have a really good printer. I mean, I've got a printer that does the job, but it doesn't seem to give me the nice finesse that you get with like an inkjet printer or something like that. It's just, my printer just doesn't do the job, to be honest with you. And I'm quite happy with it not doing the job, because it forces me to be more creative in other ways. So, but I do know some people, some product companies send me their digitals, or they'll send me their craft pads or stuff, and I'm more than willing to use them. I love playing around with other people's designs. It just adds a layer of interest that I wouldn't possibly have myself. So I'm just going to dab any old colours I can pick up off here now. It gives me an interest of designs of stuff that I may never actually get around to playing with, and it's good. I love that, and it gives me a chance to share those with you guys, and then you may discover them as well. So right, last one. Well, this is going to get a little bit boring. I'm sure I can't see the timer on my iPad, so I'm sure we've got to be close to getting to about 45 to 50 minutes. Right, that needs to go into its bath. That needs to go to one side. These three can live to do another day. Right, I'm going to stop the camera for about 5 minutes, because obviously this needs a clean up. This needs a clean up. This needs a few minutes to finish drying, and I might actually hit that with a hairdryer or a heat tool to finish that off. And these need a bit of a clean up. So back in 2 seconds for you, be about 5 minutes for me. Okay, here I am back again. I've changed the mat because you don't need to see a black mat anymore. I've cleared away anything that's not needed, and I thought, right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you the bits that I touched up on the postcard, because I know you'll all ask me why didn't I show them, so I'm going to show them anyway. These are no way finished. These are just gone to the next stage. So it was all about the subtle little bits of spare paint that I put on these, just to get them to another level. I mean, I particularly like that one. That one might even be finished, even though it was not intended to be, but just little bits on. I mean, that really changed that. I will say that's almost like a southwestern sort of theme. That's really nice. Those dots just brought that to life, as did these. I mean, I really quite like that as is. I think maybe if I put a butterfly or flower or a pixie or an elf or, I don't know, a mushroom, I don't know, that's really quite nice as well. So just little bits that got added. So let's move this to one side. So we now have the two pieces, are the one I did before and the one I've just done. Now this one I backed just with a Pritt stick and offcuts of plain paper, just because I thought if I'm doing ephemera it can be written on. This one hasn't had any backing on it, but to be honest with you, once I've cut this into ephemera, I could then stick a new back on them anyway, as I would normally do with anything that was made with really thin cardstock. Now, this one is still drying, so what I want to do is I want to talk about this one. Are you still in the shot? Hopefully I've relined this up. Now, there is something else you can take this to the next level. Now, as you can see, I've done little bits of stamping of text on here. I've just used a Tim Holtz stamp, rubber stamp, and I've used some archival black to do that. But you can enhance these even more by doodling. Now, I am not a doodler. I mean, well, I've tried. I think my OCD, because doodling is so random, it just always seems to spoil it. But I just wanted to come on and go, right, let's take a look and let's try some doodling, because what have I got to lose? Paper, paint, and a little bit of time. So I'm going to put this down just in case I overgo the edges, because I would be distraught if I destroyed my grey mat, because I love my grey mat. Now, I'm going to use some Posca pens. That's a 0.3 white. No wait, that's not 0.3, was it? Of 0.9 to 1.3 millimeter. This is a 0.7 millimeter. and this is a 0.9 to 1.3 millimeters. So you can see I like the thinner ones. So I'm going to use a black one. Now, I love watching my friend Gail do this. Gail Cusnelli's great at this, and she does it. I'll look at it and go, it would never look like that if I do it. So I'm just going to come in, and now some of these shapes I can see, like there's a circle there. I'm literally going to go around it a few times. Remember, this is meant to be an arty piece of ephemera. So I don't mind if it's not perfect. Well, I do mind. It drives me nuts if it's not perfect, but I'm trying my darndest to forget perfect. It just gives it that contemporary edge. Now, my inner mind would love me to get a template and draw around it to get all these nice even shapes, but that's not what this is about. This is all about being freehand. I'm not the greatest at it, and that's not me being modest. I'm just not the greatest at it. Now, I could look at this and go, oh, well, I need one more because there's 3 and I want 5. Now, you can look and go, are there any other shapes in here? Yes, there are other shapes in here, but I don't want to keep using black all of the time. So I'm going to change from black, and I'm going to pull in a white. This is a thin one. Just pull in some of these shapes. Like there's a bit of a pattern in here. I've got some gold and silver ones of these Posca pens as well. They're really useful. I probably just forget to use them often enough. There's some more of these shapes down here. I'm trying to be as random as I can in here, just so that I've got interesting shapes, and that's what I'm looking for. I'll probably just circle. Can you see me? You can. So I'm going to circle some of these as well. So you can go to town and do this, and if you're someone who loves doodling, you can lose yourself for hours doodling. It's just, it's not my thing. I think I stress too much about, is it perfect? Is that right? Is it not right? Which is probably why doing this and talking to you at the same time is probably very good for me, because I'm very distracted at the moment, so it means I'm not actually thinking about things. Maybe, what's this one's a black one again. Let's just do some lines here and there. And of course, I don't know which bits are going to be on which bits. So just mark making is interesting. And also I need to remember that these, when they're finished, are not going to be decorated up with a focal point. Probably this is as good as they're going to get. But what'll be really nice is when you see the finished result, hopefully there'll be little bits of art across all of them. I think that's going to be okay. Let's do some fake writing. Just literally nothing writing. I'm just putting the pen vertically and just doing something. Just giving it something that's maybe just interesting to the eye. I think that's enough, right? So as you can see, you can bring something with even more drama to it with your colour choices, all of that. So I think we've got to the point now where I want to bring in my guillotine. How dry is this one? Maybe we'll cut this one second. I just need to put it to one side. I don't want to get it messed up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm just going to cut generic sizes that I know my tags are going to be. I mean, I usually go for approximately 2-inch tags in width. I usually do journal cards at about 3 inches wide by about 4 inches. So I'm just going to cut, okay? Hopefully this isn't going to be, that should be fine. Right, everything is a risk, but everything is live. So I said, can you see me? You can. We'll turn those over when we're all done. So I'm going to cut this into 2-inch strip. Now if it's a 2-inch strip, let's do 4 inches so it's a tag. Let's do another 4-inch tag. And what's that give me at the end? Oh, another 4-inch. There you go. That was a bit of a fluke. Right, let's do that again. Because I do need more tags than anything on this, I know. Because I tend to tuck tags into everything. So I just cut this into 4. Oh, I just realised. There's me being surprised by the fact that it was perfectly 4. Of course, it's a 12 by 12, isn't it? Did I ever tell you math is not my strongest suit? So we're going to come in now, and this must be 6. Because I've done those. So what do I need these at? 3. That doesn't feel right. It's 4. See? So that's a 4-inch. And I think I'm going to make this, should I do 5? Should I do 6? Let's do 6. I do use large journal cards occasionally. So this was 4. Let's make some smaller journal cards. Let's do them 4 by 3. So that's a 3. Let's put the journal cards down there so I remember which are cards and which are not cards. So hopefully some of you out there will give this a go. It's a great way of using up 12 by 12s, but it doesn't have to be a 12 by 12, of course. It can be any piece of cardstock. You could even get a cereal box and do this onto a cereal box. Cut the front of a cereal box out. It's a good solid piece of card. Use that. You're probably going to back it anyway, so go for it. Right, I'm going to change it up a bit on this one. This feels a little wet to be cutting, but we're going to be brave. Right, these are going to be 2.5, I think. 2.5. And we'll do 4. 4. Hope I'm not smearing anything underneath. Right, so that's 2.5. Let's do this one at 3 or 3.5. Let's make some big tags. So if I do that one at 3.5 and I do it at 6, that'll give me some bigger tags. Right, what is this? So that is that 6? Almost 6. Right, so if I do this at 3, I wonder. Let's do some long narrow tags. So that gives me 2 at that, and I'm going to make this into 3 as well, but these are going to become, that's not right, 6, because actually it can't be 6. My pages are 6, so this is going to be 5. So if I do 5 for a pocket, 5 for a pocket, and we'll make this little one into a mini tag. Right, let's take that out of the way because we've had enough of that. Right, we will turn these over and cut the corners and everything in a moment, but I just want to sort them out so I know which are tags and which are not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn these over and show you all, and then I'm going to go through the process of cutting the angles on these, and then that's it done, I believe. So these were actually our pockets or our journal cards. So first look, well, that's a fabulous pocket if I've ever seen one. So that's a great pocket. Also a great pocket. I'd probably have it up that way, to be honest. This was a journal card. I have to be that way up because of the writing. Journal card. See, that's really arty when it's that size. See, I don't mind my doodling there. I think it's when it's on a bigger playing field. They go quite like that. And if you don't like anything, say you look at that and go, oh, it's really distracting, put a bit of book page down it if you really need it. I'm leaving them as they are because I want them to be this arty-farty. Quite like that. That's cool. I think there was something down here would have worked better. Maybe a little bit of something. So you know what? Let's just get my white pen and let's just... There you go. I'll put some X's on there. X is from Texas, PMM. X is from Texas. Right, some larger journaling cards like that. That works for me. And that's another one that works for me. So right, the journaling cards and the pockets are done. So let's put those to one area. Now let's have a look and see what we came up with. We've got quite a few tags here, but I know I'm going to have quite a few places to put tags. So that, we'll cut them in a minute. So I'm going to do a quick look through and we'll look at them better when I've actually cut them. That's cute. Love the way I managed to line that up there completely by accident. Cute. Now see, I don't think I want to decorate these anymore. That one might be questionable. If I was to put anything on there, it would probably be a number. Oh, see, that worked out beautifully. So did that. See, all of these are just little things I can tuck in. Oh, I love the fact that's at the top. Now you could always come in and do more stenciling now you know what they look like. So, right, how do I cut my edges? First of all, I use a pair of scissors, if I can find one of the biggest scissors in the world, but I do like my Tim Holtz scissors. Now, I've made one of these years ago. This is out of a store card. Actually, this is my membership card for an association I was a member of. Now, what I did is I just went and cut different angles at different sizes. And the way I use it is I then take this, decide which one I want. Maybe it's that one. I line it up with the two edges and I come in and I snip. I then turn it over so I've got the same angle on the other side, line the edges up and snip. I'm going to leave it face down so we see what it looks like afterwards. I'm going to use the same size on this one, but it means I can get them uniform all across the board. There are several different techniques to doing it. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can actually just do it yourself by eye. I tend to not have that much luck if I do it by eye. So, also with my tags, sometimes I put a hole in them. Sometimes I put a slot at the top. Sometimes I use a ribbon. Sometimes I don't use a ribbon. Sometimes I'll use cord or thread. Sometimes I'll use hole reinforcers. Sometimes I won't. So you really must remember, guys, it's up to you and up to the theme of what you're planning to use them for eventually. I will do my darndest to share with you the make of the art journal. Not art journal. It'll be... good grief, I can't speak. My Arty journal, which is the journal I'm planning to make for someone like that one. I think I want to go with a real subtle corner on these, so it's just like a little nick off the corner, so it's not a huge tag, because I don't want to lose part of that number, to be honest. Back to that size, I think. So yeah, I'll also... It's, what month is it here? What month is it here? It's October now. So don't forget, we're heading towards the holiday season. A lot of you are probably going to be receiving gifts or box sets or things that have got not only ribbon on the packaging, but ribbon on the packaging that the gifts were put into. So make sure you, whenever you're getting something like that, I'm going to go for a bigger edge on this one. Whenever you're getting something like that, always look at them and see what you can recycle out of the ties. I mean, very often you get some really nice seasonal ribbons, you get silks, it depends on what the gift is as to what you get it. I mean, even some of the nice twine you get because they're trying to use raffia or something, all of that's useful. Make sure you harvest it, guys. I mean, it's free, comes as part of the gift. It's the bit of the gift that the person giving the gift didn't know they were giving you. So, unless they know you're a crafter, of course, and then they probably did it on purpose. I know my family would. Ooh, they probably select it for the piece of ribbon before they selected it for the gift. So, never mind. So, I hope you've enjoyed this. This was just a case of, I thought it was well worth sharing the technique of turning a 12 by 12 into arty backgrounds. As I said, it doesn't have to be a 12 by 12, but it is something that I do use up my old 12 by 12s for. Also, well, that needs to be really small, doesn't it? I think that will. I turned the camera on because I definitely was working on the journal I'm using my brayer roll-offs on. So if I can get time to finish it, that is. Right. I think I'd rather it coming down, to be honest. That's the last one. Right, let's put that out the way, that out the way, that out the way. Just clear all of my corners out because they become really annoying. Right, let's take one last look. Really quickly, this is what all of the pockets and tags and stuff, all the pockets and journal cards look like that we made. We've already had a close-up of those. So let's see what we did putting the corners on these. So these are the tags we've just made. Really nice arty little tags, like that's begging for a number in there. So I could even stamp a number. I might stick a number in there. I could put rice paper on top of these if I wanted, or tissue, anything like that. But a lot of these, like that's just going straight in. I don't need to do anything like that. They're beautiful. I mean, that one, who needs to do anything like that? That one might need something, but again, it might be a number. I just put a number there or a number there. I could even put a ticket on it because it's got numbers on it. Don't know why I'm focused on numbers, but I am. So hopefully we enjoyed that. Hopefully that's made an interesting little hour's worth of a tutorial for you and inspired you to do something of your own. Change the colour scheme, change the stencils, change the techniques, but it gives you something that will give you a batch make to make enough ephemera, maybe build it your stockpile for next year's ephemera. So, I'm Ceri the Crafter, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter. Until next time, bye-bye now.